Are you stuck at the B1 level? You've made it this far, but now it feels like your progress has suddenly stopped. Don't worry, that is completely normal. This stage is called the intermediate plateau and every learner hits it at some point. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to break through this plateau and move toward B2. We'll go skill by skill. We'll cover listening, reading, speaking, and writing. So you'll have actionable steps that you can start using today. Plus, I've prepared a PDF with speaking and writing prompts that will help you go from B1 to B2. You can grab those in the description, just click the link and I'll send them to you. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And now if you're ready to push past B1, let's get into it. Okay, let's start with the most important skill, which is listening. One of my favorite methods is comprehensible input. Comprehensible input is a fancy way of saying that you should listen to something or watch something that is a little bit above your current level. That way you are learning something new, but it's still easy enough for you that you don't feel overwhelmed. I strongly suggest that you move to native content as soon as possible. I know that it can feel overwhelming at first because people speak very fast and it's so different to what you're used to in your textbook. You know, when you do listening exercises from your textbook, people usually speak very slowly, they pronounce everything very well, and that's just not the case in real life. But there are a few ways to make it a little bit less overwhelming. One of my favorite methods is to start with subtitles. I talked about this in a few of my other videos, so I'm just gonna explain it very, very quickly. I usually start with subtitles in my native language or a language that I know well, so English or French in my case. And then when I get used to the melody, the rhythm, when I can finally tell where one word ends and the other one starts, I move on to subtitles in my target language. And then again, I do it for a few weeks until I start noticing that I'm not relying on subtitles that much anymore. And then I just switch to watching with no subtitles. This method works really well because each step reduces dependency on text and trains your ear. Another great method is adjusting the playback speed. So you can put it on 0.5. I mean, 0.5 can sometimes sound a bit funny, but I find that if you put it on 0.8, it's usually fine. And this is great if you still feel like people are just speaking too fast, you know. Another rule that I really like to use is the 70-30 rule. And basically what it means is that 70% of what you consume should be for fun, should be the things that you enjoy. And then 30% should be maybe something that you wouldn't normally go for or something a little bit more advanced. Easy content makes you motivated and it also makes language learning feel effortless, because if you're watching something that you would have watched in your native language, then doesn't feel like a chore, doesn't feel like a language learning session. And then harder content really pushes you. It can be a news clip or a debate, something that is above your current level that will feel a little bit difficult, but not to the point where you don't understand anything. I'm a huge believer that making things fun is really the best strategy long term, because there's a huge difference between watching something or listening to a podcast episode and just constantly checking, okay, when is this going to end? And watching something that you are genuinely interested in, where you're like, okay, this was amazing, let me watch 3 more episodes. What's also really great about watching things that you're genuinely interested in is that you will not get distracted and you will actively try to understand what is going on. Because, you know, oftentimes when you listen to something or you watch something that you have no interest in, you kind of tend to zone out and think about other things. But if you actually want to understand what is going on, your brain is gonna absorb so much more information and you're gonna make progress really, really fast. And when your listening improves, your speaking improves as well. Listening and speaking are kind of like two sides of the same coin. You can only say what your brain has already heard many times. So yeah, the first step to push past B1 is to listen a lot. The second skill that we're going to talk about is reading. And I feel like reading is such an underrated tool. I feel like no one talks about it, but it's actually amazing. I love it. My first tip is don't do what I did and don't start with heavy classics. I remember when I started learning French, one of the first things I did was I bought a 1200 page book in French, and it was a French classic. I don't know what I was thinking. I've never read it. I tried and it was way too difficult for me at that point. I could probably read it now, but at B1, it was way too difficult. So don't do what I did. Instead, start simple. There are so many graded readers, so books that are marketed towards a specific level. There are short stories that you can find online. even social media posts, news articles. The goal is to get used to reading in a new language and build confidence. There are so many benefits to reading, but the most important ones are that it expands your vocab, get exposed to grammar in context. And then the third one is that you actually see the words instead of just hearing them, so it really helps with spelling. As you get more and more comfortable reading, you can move on to longer articles, essays, and eventually novels. And here again, the key is to pick something that is fun. So if you are a huge fantasy lover, or you like to read romance books or sci-fi, then pick those books, read those books in your target language. If you are learning a more popular language like French, German, Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, then the good news is that a lot of books get translated into those languages and you can easily get them online as ebooks, so you don't even have to get a physical copy. That way you don't have to worry about shipping, and they are also very easy to read on your e-reader, but even on your phone, that works great too. To make reading a little bit more active, you can highlight new words, interesting phrases, collocations, and then use them in writing or speaking. That way you are turning passive vocab into active vocab. Lastly, before we move on to active skills, I want to share one of my favorite techniques, which is reading and listening at the same time. Again, there are so many audiobooks available online. You can easily get them from platforms like Audible. This is not sponsored, but I recently got a few audiobooks in Russian from Audible and I've been really enjoying them. But I'm sure there are many other platforms that you can get audiobooks from. But the benefits of reading and listening at the same time are, first of all, you see the spelling, so it helps you avoid mistakes later on, and you hear the pronunciation. This is especially helpful at B1 because at that level, sometimes you don't know how to say a new word, and so yeah, you just hear it and there is no guessing. You can be sure that you're saying it correctly. Okay, now let's move on to active skills, and don't forget that you can download my prompts from the description. So the first skill that we're gonna start with is writing. Writing is amazing because it forces you to slow down and think carefully about what you want to write. It also helps you notice gaps. So maybe you don't know how to spell something, or you don't know how to connect two sentences or how to phrase an idea. That way you see what you need to focus on, what you need to improve. It makes your thinking in the language clearer and more structured, which carries on into speaking. And also, if you are a visual learner, a lot of visual learners need to write something down in order to remember it. But writing doesn't have to be essays or long assignments. You can keep it fun and easy. At the beginning, even 1, 2, or 3 sentences is enough. The point is consistency, not perfection. If you don't know where to start, you can start with gratitude lists. So write down a few things that you're grateful for. You can write about your day, so a few things that happened during the day, or you can make lists in your target language, so things you want to do the next day. That way you're practicing the past tense and then the future tense. You can write summaries, reviews, even social media style posts. Don't have to post them anywhere, but just, to practice. And if you're ever out of ideas, don't forget that I prepared a big list of prompts that you can use anytime. I know that writing can feel a bit difficult at the beginning. It's a completely new skill that you want to train, and sometimes you just feel like you constantly have to look up new words, but that's fine. If you need a new word to express an idea and you look it up, it will actually stick way better because it will be tied to that specific moment. This is actually one of the best ways to learn new vocab. Also, correct your mistakes immediately. If you notice that you made a mistake, go back and correct it. If you have a tutor or know someone who knows your target language, ask them to review what you wrote, or you can even ask AI. You can literally just paste your text into ChatGPT or another AI tool, and then it will tell you if you made any mistakes. ChatGPT is not always 100% correct, but for short texts, I think it should be fine. When you get more comfortable, you can experiment with writing longer and longer texts. A great motivational trick is to use the same prompt twice in a span of a few weeks. You'll see that your vocab has expanded, your sentences got smoother, and your confidence will grow. The fourth and final skill is speaking. Speaking brings everything together, and at B2 it should feel natural, but you are still allowed to make mistakes. I'm gonna keep this section of the video quite short because I've made a few different videos that are on my channel specifically about speaking, so if you want to dive deeper, I will link them in the description. Speaking is kind of like a muscle that you need to train. You will get better with time. My favorite technique to start speaking is to record yourself. I talked about this many times on my channel, but basically you pick a prompt, click record, and you start speaking. You can literally just start with 2 to 3 minutes at the beginning and then slowly build up to 10 or 15 minutes. Don't aim for perfection. The goal is to start speaking and send a signal to your brain and be like, hey, like this is normal. This is not a big deal. I do this all the time. So that when you actually have to talk to someone in real life, it will feel completely normal. When you stop recording, listen back, notice any mistakes that you made, whether that's grammar, word choice, pronunciation, and then re-record the same topic, but this time improved. Again, to measure progress, you can use the same prompt after a few weeks and compare the recordings, and I promise you that the difference will be huge. Other great options include shadowing if you want to work on your pronunciation and your accent, and also language exchanges. Language exchanges are great, and if you have one near you, I strongly suggest that you check it out, because it's such an amazing way to, first of all, meet new people and practice your target language in such a low pressure environment, because I promise you, when you go to a language exchange, everyone's stressed. There's this level of mutual understanding, and I've always had very, very positive experiences. I used to go to this language exchange in Paris that was French and Danish. It was the best. I miss it a lot. So yeah, if you have one near you, check it out. With consistent practice, you'll go from hesitant, rehearsed B1 speech to comfortable, flowing B2 conversations. All right, that's it for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to download my prompts. The link is in the description. If you found this video helpful, like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.